Thank you, Jennifer. So I am John Hand, and I'm the chair of the Arts Industry Commission. Before we get started, I would like to acknowledge the ancestral, cultural, traditional, and unceded territory of the Shoshone, Bannock, Paiute people on which we are meeting today. I want to welcome everyone. Hope your New Year is off to a good start. And we have some new faces. We'll do some introductions here momentarily. I do want to ask for a motion to approve minutes from our last meeting in December from any of the commissioners.
A motion to accept minutes.
JJ has motioned that. Can we get a second?
I will second the motion.
Thank you, Chris, and welcome, Gabby. We're just passing a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
That's great.
Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you. All right, so Jennifer Stevens is not able to join us today, and we wish we're sending her our best. And I know she's on the agenda, excited to talk about some new staff. But Kristen, I assume that there's a good reason why you're sitting in proximity here. So I thought maybe would you like to do a little introduction?
I would love to.
That would be great.
So we are super excited to have a new program for the Irma Haven House. Tanisha Eastman Belson is here with us for the first commission meeting today. We would like to say a few words.
It is a pleasure to be here with all of you. A little bit about myself. I'm a California native, but Treasure Valley has been my home for the past 3 years, and I'm just super excited to be a part of this department and to be an advocate for this space. I'm really excited, and I hope I get to work more with each and every one of you.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
I'm half Californian, so
Be recommended in spirit.
welcome. And like, have you been doing anything in the last 3 years to prepare you for this role? Is there any what just curious what brought you to this role? And
So I was previously in education, and I had my bachelor's in psychology and Africana studies. So meshing the two, and this was a perfect way to do that. And yeah, it was time for a change, and this was the perfect spot to do that. So
that's great seeing.
thank you.
Congratulations. Anybody have any questions or comments that they want to make?
I'm just gonna say Tanisha joined us last week and just hit the ground running. I'm so happy to have her on our team.
Well, that's what educators do, right? Councilmember Sanchez, I just want to acknowledge your presence. Thank you for being here.
Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to the show.
Well, I know we have some important things to review today. So Jennifer, from our agenda and then from a department update perspective, Jennifer just let me know that if there's any, because Jennifer's not here today, if there's any questions anyone has that they want to ask, then please, feel free to reach out and make those inquiries. Is there anything that anyone wanted to touch on today that we could at least log for an action item?
And this is for the director update, which is
update.
the number one, following the agenda in minutes, the first report in the commission packet. So Jennifer Stevens is unfortunately has a family emergency, and she said to, if you've read the director update, if you had any particular questions, to share them here or to email her directly, and she'd be happy to address those. She was not going to deviate from that report. So everything you've read in the report is what she had planned to share.
Okay. So I'm not seeing anything from anyone. I do appreciate the effort and the commitment to that. I think it's important with all of our newer members of the commission as well as the department. I think it's great. Really do appreciate it. Okay, then we are going to move. Gee, I think there's a little, I drove out to the airport the other day and I was like, holy mackerel, I was just here like 3 weeks ago, and how much construction can they do at one time? So we've got this evolving airport infrastructure that I assume is going to add a few, I don't know, walls and square footage and other things like that. So Tilly, it is nice to have you here. We really appreciate it, and we know you've been doing a lot of hard work along with others. So
Thank you.
please take it away.
I'm Tilly Bubb. I'm the cultural planner for the city of Boise. I have with me my esteemed colleague, Amy Westover, who is my partner in crime on this plan and a public artist in her own right. And Amy and I are going to be a team presenting this plan to you today. And then we'd like to provide an overview of the plan. You received a digital copy of the plan. We'll give you an overview and then answer any questions that you have. And then we would like to discuss the next steps for this plan if the commission approves it. And then we'll be requesting your approval of the plan at the end of this presentation. So can I minimize the folks so that doesn't? Yep. There we go. Okay.
You can even. Yep.
Okay, great. When they won't. This plan is a collaboration between the Boise Airport and Arts and History. I wanted to just pass around for those of you who might not have seen this before. This is a very similar structure of plan that we did, that I did with Dwayne Carver for the Public Works Department. So when you look at the physical copy of this plan, it will give you a very good idea of what the physical copy of this plan will look like. And just as in the case of Boise of Public Works, where we worked to create a plan that was really focused on how public art can orient to their goals and procedures like climate change and recycling. The airport is very focused on the goals of the airport. So this is not art for art's sake. This is art that's really intertwined with the mission of the airport. And you'll see that as we go through the plan. So the plan is intended for city and staff elected leaders. So it's really a legacy document that when we get new city council members or new staff, we can hand them this plan and they can have a sense of our work. It's for those who manage Boise airport services or our communication personnel. It's for our public art division. Stephanie Johnson is our project manager for this project, and it's for herself and new staff that might come in to Public Works. It's for artists who might be interested in doing public art projects at the airport to get a more holistic sense of the art of the airport. It's for community members and citizens. It'll be available on our website, like the Public Works Plan, so that people who are just interested can get a sense of the program. And then we also see it as aimed at national public art colleagues and other city administrators. We really took this on as a high-level professional task that we think is one of the best in the country. And then it's for our yet-to-be-hired leaders. So the plan is separated into two major parts. Looking back is really an evaluation. It's an overview of our regional environment. We include a diversity, equity, and inclusion lens. We look at the airport environment, the master planning process overall. We review our collection and inventory. And then we talk about, we did a full-scale assessment of all the public art at the airport. And we have a 60-page document that goes into detail about the condition of those pieces. Elagio and Stephanie were both a great help in that process. And then in the looking forward document, the second part of the document, we introduce vision, mission, goals, and objectives, which we'll talk a little bit more about. We introduce a concept of curatorial strategies. This is the first time a public art plan has ever been done for the airport. And so in the past, we've been more responsive to individual opportunities. In this plan, we take this opportunity to really set a more larger strategic vision for what this will be. So curatorial strategies, as we'll discuss, will be part of that. We briefly discussed implementation, although most of that is left for internal documents, so that this plan can have a longer shelf life. And then we go into specifically discussing opportunities, both for public art and then for some potential program opportunities that we'll introduce to you as well. And then we end with focusing on new construction opportunities and those new programs. So that's kind of the overall structure of the plan. So here in the looking back, we really wanted to root this plan in place, and we really see the airport as when you arrive at the airport, we want you to feel like you arrived at a specific place. So we really spent some time talking about those demographics and the environment. We also talk a little bit about the history of the airport. Again, we see this as a legacy document that'll be a 5 to 10 year document. It'll be a historical archivable object that tells about this history that might not be somewhere else. These are historical photographs that we borrowed from the airport that will be eventually put into our city archive. Amy, you want to talk about this section?
Sure. So like here, first, I just wanted to say I'm just really honored to be here today, and I'm so happy we're at this point with the plan. It's been a really amazing project to work on, and yeah, such an honor to really dive into something like the airport and put together, like what Tilly mentioned, a legacy document. So it's been a super honor for me. So anyway, having said that, like Tilly said, the curatorial kind of strategy of the plan was really important for us to kind of lay a foundation for how to really envision the airport going forward. Like you mentioned, there's so much growth and new construction. So a lot of the terms that we came up against while we were doing a lot of research for the plan is this concept of landside and airside. So it's sort of airport terminology that's used, it's thrown around all the time. So really just to designate where in the airport things are happening. And we took that as a guiding kind of principle through the document. So it's broken up into 2 sections, landside and airside. And we so we assess the current inventory that way, and then and that weaves its way through the rest of the document as well. So to kind of begin this process, we really wanted to see, where are we right now? The airport has had a significant number of commissions already that have been completed, and we wanted to look at those and take a really close look at the condition they're in. Where have we been? What have we done? And how do we kind of take those types of ideas and move forward? So we have some permanent public artworks listed, also the temporary and portable public artworks. How do I do the page? Down? Oops. I think we somehow got it. Okay. I think we got big somehow on that. Okay, there we go. And then on the air side, then the permanent public artworks on the air side, as well as the temporary and portable public artworks. So this isn't an inventory. Down, is that?
Sorry, can I just ask a question? When you talk about temporary and permanent, like how temporary is temporary?
Well, so for instance, there's a vinyl mural and ticketing, the middle picture there on, and I think that is the second iteration of that space being a like a shorter life in terms of a public art project. It's the way of kind of like wanting to keep that space fresh. So every 5 years, 10 years, it changes out. So in that case, it's a temporary piece. The portable works are part of the larger city collection that rotate. Yeah. And some of them reside at the airport only, and other ones are part of the rotating citywide program. Exactly. So
thank you.
There's a section where we go into a little more detail about recommendations for the collection and some quick fixes. So part of our journey with looking at the current inventory there was how can it be approved? Is the artwork reached its lifespan? Does it need maintenance? Does it need lighting, signage, other things? So we make those recommendations through this section. And then we have a looking forward section, which really is getting into the meat of the before leading into the opportunities section. And we wanted to list out a vision, mission, and goals and outcomes for this plan. We took this list of goals, and every opportunity from here on out lists what goals are met by implementing that opportunity. So the guest experience, number one, like Tilly said, is the partnership between arts and history and this plan and the airport was super important. That is very airport specific. So the guest experience is really goal number one. Regionally reflective. Boise Airport is obviously is more regional than just this city, as it's the largest airport in quite a large radius. So we wanted to really have that regional reflection about our area. Cultural partnerships, you'll see different references to that throughout the plan and opportunities and especially new program sections. High quality, of course, we want all of the artwork that we commission to be of the highest quality possible. Care and conservation, of course, is a big goal in a public art collection, and public communication. So the curatorial strategies, like we said, the plan is really broken into the Landslide, Airside, like we mentioned, but within that, there's also kind of a sub-curatorial strategy, which is really talking about these kind of navigational themes throughout the plan. So we've broken the Landslide and the Airside into corridors. Do we have a little? Yes. Okay, that's next. So the Landslide corridors, we have a traffic corridor, nature corridor, and river corridor. And really how we've been thinking about these corridors is the idea that we're really thinking about people moving through the space and how they interact with those different spaces, Landside and then Airside, and how we can best commission art that reflects those spaces, because the airport experience is so transitional from the Landside to the Airside. There's a different emotional response. There's a different kind of quality of activity that people are doing. So we really wanted to kind of emphasize that through this idea of the corridors. And on the Landside, it's very rooted in place. It's the nature corridor is really thinking about how we want to reflect the natural aspect of this region and of Boise and how important that is to us. And then the river corridor is really this flowing stream, the traffic and how people are moving through the space, and
Traffic.
And then traffic, yeah, like literal traffic corridors. So, and then the Airside corridors, jet stream corridor.
Sorry. I think it might be helpful. Could we go back to the previous page? I just want to make sure that people connect what those white boxes, what the white highlighted things are versus the other.
Sure. Those are buildings yet to be built. They're actually on the far left of the image is one that's currently in the process of being built. And then the other two on the far right, and then the other Concourse A are future construction. So we included them in this diagram so that you could see what was included in these different corridor sections. I also wanted to define curatorial for those of the commission who may not be familiar with that term, because it is such a technical term. Curatorial is really thinking about Stephanie's going to be the person who identifies in cooperation with the airport which of these opportunities they might select, and then what type of art project they're looking for. And rather than thinking about it in terms of a curatorial, like making specific choices that then hang together as a larger collection. That's what we mean by putting them in these different corridors, so that in the traffic corridor, for instance, you might have work that is really about this kind of connection between the built environment and nature. And then as you move in, you'll have pieces that are more nature-based, and then that might be about exterior land nature. And then as you go in, it might be more about the river corridor, the river environment. So that's so that when multiple pieces are selected for that area, they hang together as a group.
Thank you.
And then the Airside corridors, we focus on the security corridor, which is really kind of that in-between space that we've all experienced of moving from Landslide to Airside. And what that security corridor, how can art kind of bring some meaning and maybe a much needed distraction in that area as we move through the space.
Maybe even some humor.
Some humor, yeah, that would be great. And then the jet stream corridor is kind of a play on terms there for the Airside. Really thinking about themes that are more literally like light and airy, ephemeral, that evoke the idea of being lifted into the air, which you're about to do as boarding a plane. So, questions there?
May I ask one?
Yeah.
Now, is that the curatorial selection and the sort of differentiation between different corridors, is that communicated to a visitor in any other way other than just the selection of the art? Like, is it anywhere made explicit, or is it something that just kind of exists in the eye of the visitor?
Right now,
I don't know if it'll be like a didactic type of.
Right.
yeah, we haven't discussed it that it's really more of a planning and a project selection.
It's kind of like a planning tool.
Mhm.
Mhm. But I do think that if it's carried out, right, I think one who may look a little deeper will start to see that.
Yeah.
They'll start to feel like, oh, everything is really very rooted and grounded on this side, and
Right.
sort of like
They'll feel it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's our goal.
That's our-
Feel it, not to tell them.
right, yeah.
Thank you.
Sure, that's a good question. The implementation process, do you want to touch on this? Okay,
Sure. In the implementation process, we just talked briefly about the Percent for Art program selection processes, and then we really point to some internal guides. Stephanie and Liana are in the process of remaking the public art guidelines that really guide the internal processes. So we didn't want to tie them down too much by over articulating them in this particular area. We did address some specific things like ownership, copyright, and then pointed to the need for more staff. Then we get into this section about opportunities. What we've done that is really different from the public works public art plan was very focused on more general typologies of opportunities. This plan, because it's really for a facility, we looked at the existing campus as was requested by the leadership of the airport and identified specific identifiable places where we thought there were opportunities for art. And then we provide opportunities within those examples of what those opportunities are. You can see it's broken into the different corridors on the land side. We also address the floors, the administration floor, and areas that are not necessarily travel related. So each opportunity, we just have one from each example to share with you. We have an image of the site, so you can visualize that. We have a description of what we think the opportunity is. We identify what type of project it might be, what goals it might meet. RFQ stands for request for qualifications. We put in some notes if there's some things that we think we want to just kind of remind Stephanie to think about when she creates that request for qualifications. And then on the right, we have two precedent examples that are visually meant to stimulate the person to think, wow, you know, what could be, these would be really cool in that spot. I can think of other things that might be cool there, so that you can immediately make the connection of the type of art that we're thinking about for those locations. And then there's more information if you wanted to dive into looking at these precedent projects more. And then you'll also note on the, Melissa Osgood is our designer. I'd like to acknowledge Melissa did a fantastic job. I also want to thank Jennifer, who helped us through this process as well, Jennifer Weibar. There's a little suitcase at the bottom. That's another kind of wayfinding item for the plan, as well as Landslide on the top to let you know where you are. And then the Airside, the same themes. Now there's a little airplane for the Airside. It's broken into the different corridor areas. And then the same kind of section on the upper left, it identifies which side you're on, what corridor you're in, and then there's the airplane, the precedent examples. They're very similar to the opportunity we're looking at. And then we have a few opportunities that exist on both sides, similar types of environments such as the arcade design, and we list those out as being relevant for both sides. You want to talk about new construction?
Sure. So the new construction section, we really wanted to focus on how to, I guess, bring in artists ahead of time. You know, we list opportunities for artists on design team, architecturally integrated projects, responding to the spaces, open spaces, reserved wall space, construction infrastructure boundaries, specific stakeholders and staff and resources through this new construction process to really try and stimulate the sort of forward thinking that we would like to get artists involved early on these projects. And so we talk a lot about that process. And then we list out different opportunities that are coming online soon. I believe there's a employee parking garage that has been finished or is close to being finished. One of the construction projects you see out there right now is the public parking garage. And then a couple of those buildings that were whited out on the diagram are the rental car facility. So we list, what we think would be really neat opportunities there for connecting the airport, say, to the rental car facility with this kind of covered walkway, and different, of course, opportunities and different types of art that are really sort of special if they can get, and if artists can get involved early on in the process. We have new program concepts. When Tilly and I were doing a lot of research for this plan, it became clear as we researched other airports and what they're doing in other airports and other airport plans, that a lot of airports have like a designated art department within the airport. We're not quite there yet, but there are, I think, opportunities to look forward to in the future with the Boise Airport, including a performing arts program, Idaho Filmmakers Showcase, artist and oh, do you? Okay. So we do, yeah, we go through each of these kind of new program opportunities and really describe them in detail and show precedented examples of what these types of programs, what the other airports that are implementing these type of programs. So performing arts program, music, and dance and theater. An Idaho Filmmakers Showcase, we would love to see that media be offered within the airport. So we show a potential location for that, and then also point to precedent examples elsewhere in the United States. An artist in residence program at the airport. This is definitely something that is picking up more sort of speed throughout airports. And I think there's a lot of opportunity there, and just something different and unique.
Yeah, and this could be, it could be a visual artist. We identified an information center downstairs that's never used.
It's kind of abandoned.
Yeah, but that could be a place where a visual artist could work and make work that's inspired by that airport environment. It could also be a poet or a writer, someone that could make work about that experience. So those are lots of different possibilities. And then we want, if we did specifically an artist in residence program, we want to tie it in with the other artist in residence programs that we have. So that would be developed in tandem with cultural sites.
So Tilly, would it be similar to like the James Castle House? Would they stay at the airport?
That would be hilarious. Yeah, although that would be awesome. We see this as an opportunity for local artists.
Chris Clegg has her hand up.
Yes, Chris.
I also made a note. I think this would be a great way to work with whoever the cultural ambassador is for the city.
That's a great idea.
That's a great idea.
Like to make them a part-time artist in residence as well.
Or have them involved in performance art or you know, whoever it is at the time. But have them be involved with it too.
Especially as far as the programming is
Mhm.
concerned, like, that's
Yes.
always a big task, is just making sure.
Yeah.
It's set up.
Yeah, thank you. We saw a lot of partner programs that were changing exhibitions were present, costume exhibits, historical exhibits, visual art exhibits. And
Instruments, bicycles, it's just, you name it.
yeah,
It's just a really neat opportunity to bring something different into the airport.
and we also saw this as an opportunity for the airport to really partner more with local nonprofits and to make it more of a civic center and showcasing what we have in the Treasure Valley, so that as you come out of the airport, you have more familiarity with other institutions or things that we have here. We list different types of partners that we would suggest working with. We also saw a lot of temporary exhibits of individual artists. So that could be kids, it could be university students, it could be works that are commissioned but that we don't take ownership of. So we have not had anything like that. It really is something that requires staff to manage. But there's lots of examples of that in other cities that we'd like to consider. And then history installations. We really love this history exhibit that we have at the city of Boise, but we feel it has a very limited audience here. We think at the airport, it would have an incredible audience that would be really interested in it. We saw other airports that had robust historical exhibits. So we'd like to capitalize on this existing installation, but also on Travis and the work that he and Danielle do to identify exhibitions that could capitalize on our programs that we do, the exhibitions that you're already creating, or the archive that we have. So
I did want to say one thing.
Yes, ma'am.
In terms of like the rotating art opportunities or exhibition spaces. When, say, a significant public art piece is planning to be commissioned at the airport, I think that would be a fabulous opportunity to have an exhibit of that artist's work or have them in residence as kind of the new commissioned artist. I think that would bring a wonderful sort of like, you know, merging of education about what's happening and also an opportunity really for the public to get to know that artist.
I like it. So, as you can see, it's very robust. Our next steps would be to present this to the Airport Commission for review in February, and then pending approval there, and here to go to Boise City Council for their review. Once we receive approvals and any additional edits that anyone may have, we'll put in the final edits to Melissa Osgood, we'll do a limited edition print run as we did with Public Works, and then have digital versions that are on the web. And then we would work with the public art team to engage Boise Airport partners through presentations about the plan. I know that Jennifer is working with Stephanie and Rebecca to talk about staffing considerations to hopefully identify a staff person who would help manage new projects specifically for the airport. After that, we see quick fixes as the initial projects that could be done, and then prioritizing opportunities based on new construction or other priorities that the airport may have, and then moving forward. So that is our presentation for today.
It's a great photo.
Yes, John. So, you know, one request that I have, Tilly, is that, you know, towards the beginning of your presentation where you lined out the different categories. And towards the beginning was, I guess it was looking back, and you listed DEI, as is often the case when it comes with that progressive effort of trying to be, you know, to ensure that we are including everyone. The terminology and the approach changes. As an 18-year-old at Boise State, when I first started on this type of work, it was called pluralism. And then pluralism became multiculturalism. And what I'm reading now is DEI is starting to fall by the wayside. And it's it's becoming anti-racism. It's becoming a bit more pointed and direct about the work. And so I guess I would just ask that some research be done about what is the appropriate approach. That's just part of the game. Things evolve, terminology changes. And so I would just request that some research be done about the appropriate approach to that as we move forward.
Okay, thank you. We'll do that.
So, any commissioners have any specific comments that they'd like to bring up right now? Otherwise, I'm willing to jump in. Yeah,
To
JJ.
make a follow-up with what Councilwoman Sanchez said, what are you looking at to ensure that it's reflective of Boise and all of Boise's communities? Are you looking at, how we, here at meetings, we talk about the native land that we're working, so are you working with any of the tribes to do any of that art? Are you looking at different artists?
Yeah, at this point, we are not identifying any artists. That will be Stephanie's role. What we have done is that we've put into the plan specifically, we've actually requested specifically to have a permanent case that talked about the history and the contemporary relationship with the tribes, because they're not present at all in the airport. So it is something that we put into the plan. In the diversity, equity, and inclusion section, what we do is we talk about the language that is in the request for qualifications, where we identify our statement regarding this that is in line with the city's statements and the Americans for the Arts statements regarding DEI. And then part of the program, additional programs where we're talking about partnerships, we also identify in that section
The cultural
partnerships that working with different groups, different ethnic groups, different cultural groups is something that is desirable to show a more rounded perspective of what Boise is. But I think it's in that section where we identify what's in the RFQ is as close as we get to specifically saying that we want to work with people of all races. And then that's really Stephanie's role in putting together those opportunities.
Tilly, I was approached, and I believe Mayor McLean was approached by, I believe he's still a commissioner, Yvonne Castillo. I'm not sure if he's still with the Hispanic Commission, in reference to the Tree of Life that was donated by a state in Mexico a couple of years ago. And, he noticed that and he said, I wish that could be a part of a bigger celebration of the Mexican people in Idaho, and especially since we've gotten this beautiful gift from folks in Mexico. And so is there plans to make sure that, art that we already have at the airport is highlighted and expanded upon, as Commissioner Castillo queried?
Yes, one of our, thank you for that comment. In our quick fixes list, that project we actually call out and say that it needs to have a new case and it needs to have signage and lighting. So we specifically call it that piece and say it's not presented as well as it could be and it doesn't tell the story of it. Yeah, wonderful. So thank you. We did identify that as one of the quick fixes to be done.
But I do see that particular project could be sort of a springboard to one of the exhibition cases, where that could be featured in a larger exhibition of like a cultural partnership type of exhibition could be specifically built around that.
Yeah, and we saw that as a problem actually with a lot of the pieces, like the World War II aviator, that was done in great partnership with an aviation museum in Nampa. We're very involved in that. But a lot of people don't know that the airport was a bomber training site before it was our airport. So having a historical site that really tells the history of our relationship to the National Air Guard and why we have that statue out front would make that artwork make more sense. Or the wildland firefighter, a lot of people don't know that the National Interagency Fire Center is at the airport. And so having a case that talks about that Boise is this headquarters. So we found that more robust information about all the pieces is really would be helpful.
Great.
And meaningful.
So my comment just, I applaud the work. It's terrific, and it's, you know, I think it just sets the stage for some really cool stuff to happen. My only fear, and I'm not doing this because Travis asked me to. My only fear is that it feels like a big A and a little H. And I would just.
Can you explain that?
Well, meaning that there's a lot of focus on art, and rightly so, love art. At the same time, I just want to, and I know you've captured some of it.
Mhm.
I just would make sure that we have that we are focusing on, I mean, there's the visual representations, which are great, but I've also, you know, I've been to a lot of airports in my time and spent a lot of time in lines, and some of the most memorable ones are the places that literally tell the story when you're in those time, like the security line you talked about, or the boarding lines or whatever. And there's great ways to tell those stories about the people, place, the history, all of it together. And I just want to, I think sometimes we get a little bit of token history at the Boise airport that's not presented in a meaningful way. And so that's my concern, is we're going to do a lot of this stuff and lots of cool big art stuff, and we'll have a little bit of history. And so that's my concern.
Yeah.
Right, Travis?
Well, may I speak to that a little bit?
Please.
And then I'd love to hear Tilly's and Amy's comments. So I haven't spoken too much with Tilly regarding the particulars of the plan itself and how history could collaborate, but that is something that we're interested in doing. And there are a couple of germs of a couple of ideas that I think that really stand out. The history timeline that's right behind us right here. To your point, it's a timeline, right? And I think that if you're in the security line, when you're at an airport, you have a captive audience for all intents and purposes, right? And people may be spending a little bit more time, where this is kind of hidden away, it's tucked away, and it doesn't get the eyeballs that we're really looking for. So a replication of something like this at the airport that I think was really well done, that's pretty recent, that's very inclusive. We recently presented the timeline to library, our colleagues at library, and one of them commented on, they applauded the work for, and it's really, you know, it's not anything that I did, it's Brandy, my predecessor's work, but they applauded that exhibition for how inclusive it was and representative of women in particular. Just given the fact that it sits right next to the Boise mayor's installation in particular, where there's a lot of white men highlighted, right? But I think that there's a lot of opportunity to take some of the exhibitions that we've done in the past and that we're planning going forward, and even other projects like oral history projects, and then make visual components to them, and then have them on this rotation, which is something that we've talked about with the director, with other colleagues in A&H, is to have things that we've done in the past and ongoing exhibition projects rotate around the city through different departments. And airport would be a great way to do that. We've had some conversations about doing that with library. I think airport would be a great next step, and I'd love to talk that through with you more, Tilly. So let's do that. Let's have some coffee at some point. Chat about that.
Thank you. Can I speak a little bit to that? In the existing waiting area, if you're, you know, waiting for someone to come out from the airside, we actually proposed to do a replica of the history wall timeline in that space, and trying to kind of get it implemented as we were working on this plan, because it is so recent and fresh, and it would just be kind of the ideal location for that. But the airport is completely remodeling that area.
Well, that was kind of my question is, so are we at the stage yet? And not to interrupt, I want you to finish your thought, but I had a question during this proposal. Is there's some display cases that you showed in, I don't know if it was Boise Airport or if it was other airports. Are there display cases available? Is that part of the plan, or does that come at a later stage?
There's 2 display cases right now on the, is it second level? Third on the administration before you go into the conference rooms and administration side. One is currently exhibiting model airplanes, which are fabulous. They're really fun to look at. And then the other exhibition case is actually covered. They put, like, you know, kind of a wood paneling over it. I'm not sure why, or if it was just a temporary until they had something they wanted to put in the case, they covered it with this veneer. But we have proposed opening up that exhibition case there. And we've also proposed moving the model airplanes onto the Airside, maybe even in the new concourse construction, building a case for that. I think kids would especially really love to see that. And it's just kind of hidden up there. So those are our only exhibition cases right now, which are not, they're public space, but they're not frequented.
Yeah. Right. And on the second floor, there are some cases. We have one, for example, that where we are featuring VCT right now as our cultural ambassador, but they're primarily for sale. And we only have that one because they couldn't sell it. So they let us put something in it. But there's nothing set up right now that where we have a space that we know that we can curate and do exhibitions.
Right.
So, yes. Chris, did you have your hand up?
I have a couple of questions. Have the airport expansion plans been finalized? Are there blueprints done? I know there was reference to that in the plan.
There are some designs completed and others not. For the parking garages, the plans are completed. For the concourse A, plan is not completed. So it's kind of in different stages.
Okay. And then we have, if I read it right, 700,000 in a bucket.
That's an estimate.
Okay. And will that be added to in 2023?
We anticipate it will be.
Okay. And is any money being taken out of that right now to do upkeep or, okay.
No.
That's all.
But my, I want to respond to John's point, which is we agree with you. We do think there should be more history in the airport. This plan is a % for art documents. The funding that we have right now is for public art. And the programs that we've made recommendations to add are outside of the funding mechanism that we currently have. So we are working with our trusted lawyer friend here, Tyler, to work on a revision of the public art plan, of the public art % for art ordinance. Thank you. To revision it as a cultural asset ordinance so that we could include history and archive in that ordinance. And then that would allow us the funding ability to use those funds for those. Right now, we cannot use them for that. So if we were to do anything having to do with history, the airport would have to identify funds outside the % for art ordinance, or we would have to find funds in another source to do those projects. Right now, they're not included as something that is fundable in the % for art ordinance.
So then I guess I have to ask the question, if that's the case, then all in the spirit of, begin with the end in mind. Do you go to all this work and not incorporate, just do it based on what you just said, or should that document be asking those?
We did ask those questions, and that's why those additional programs are included in there. So
okay,
we did ask those questions, and we did include it with the hope that it would be funded.
Okay, great, thank you.
I wanted to give Stephanie an opportunity to say anything, because since we're working under her leadership, if you have any comments on the plan.
I think everything that everyone has brought up as questions are all things that to integrate into the actual opportunities and the actual things that get produced from this plan, which I think is the exciting part, because you can plan and you can make recommendations, but what actually happens and what actually gets produced is where the evolution of things as it goes happens. And this provides a platform for us to have a plan and have things figured out, and then go forth and do really exciting, cool things and elevate our airport.
And then Alazio, I'd like to give you an opportunity to speak as well.
So as was mentioned, I think one of the, I don't want to say concerns yet, but it's if we do not have the ordinance well written, do we get ahead of ourselves where we are either making these things or promising these things without a plan for maintaining them? Because the maintenance falls under the % or the 0.4 as opposed to the 1%. And so I'm unclear whether we are hoping that history will be incorporated into that 1%, or whether history is going to be taken from the point forward, which selfishly, I want as much as I can get.
Any need?
Yeah.
Actually, we're revisioning it entirely. So, so we have not come to a conclusion yet. Right now, we're actually looking to move to the point for the maintenance to be funded out of our operations budget, which is where we're currently actually funding it, rather than having it be part of the ordinance. We would actually point to a budgetary process for identifying those funds for maintenance and conservation, rather than having it and then keeping the 1% or the 1 point whatever percent would be for capital costs only. And that would include history as a cultural asset if we were to go in that direction. But we're still working on that language, so I don't want to prematurely speak to that. All I can say though is that it will be provided for. Conservation is essential to the care of what we've already purchased, and the exhibition of what we've already purchased is the most primary thing. And so it will not be forgotten in this process.
And then the other question that just kind of came to mind is one thing that I'm always an advocate of is public access to our work, that the public can get to the work that their tax dollars are going for. Therefore, the Airside is a barrier for those who cannot travel, who cannot pass security. Is that something that we've seen ever brought up in other airports in terms of how much is invested on that side versus the other side, and how the public can get access to those pieces?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Because the functionality of the airport as a port is that's what its purpose is. In all the plans that we've looked at, and in the plan, we identify about 10 different plans that we reviewed. No one specifically talks about a percentage of art on one side or the other. They just speak to the need for it on both sides. It's really looked at as a holistic facility. Even though the people who come to the airport are either they are traveling or they're picking up someone who travels. So they're seeing art. We have put art on both sides, and art is identified for both sides, but there isn't like a percentage breakdown.
Okay.
Tilly, I just, I want to bring something up. You know, something that I've really enjoyed over the years being associated with the city of Boise is the history part, and how much I've learned about how Boise came to be Boise. And whether it's the Irma Hayman House and the significance of somebody like Miss Irma, learning about the racist language in the deeds of homes in certain parts of Boise, how folks treated the Boise River at one point like a garbage stream. All I see is, you know, white supremacy. And I feel like this department, more than any, has done such a great job of being the tip of the spear about moving our organization and our community forward when it comes to those issues. I guess I would ask that as we move forward with this plan, that we think in terms of dismantling white supremacy, that we prepare for a city that will not be upwards of 90% white, that we will change, that we will be a city that folks will want to come to make a home, because those deed restrictions don't exist anymore. Well, they do on paper, but that folks know that this is not a place just for white people. And I think this is a wonderful opportunity for us to dismantle white supremacy, to be anti-racist in this work, because it is the welcome to folks, whether it's folks coming home, newcomers coming here to do business or to recreate, or people coming to check it out and see if this is where they want to make their new home. But I think this is an amazing opportunity for us to do that, to really undo the harm of the last 100 or so years, where it was put into policy that only white people could buy homes. in certain parts of Boise, Idaho. And this is the real work. It's not a $500,000 investigation of a white supremacist who was working with the Boise Police Department. It's this is the white supremacy that we have to deal with. And we get to be the warriors to undo that harm. So thank you for being the ones that are leading that charge.
Thank you. We heartily agree.
Melissa Bond, sorry.
Melissa? Yes. We can't hear you.
I know, I lowered my hand and didn't turn on my mic. I want to offer just like a slight counterpoint to this, and I appreciate that we're going to try to incorporate historical elements. I'm thinking about all the things that I like in airports and what attracts me, and specifically as a company that markets in the Boise airport. It's all about selling Boise, right? And why people should want to leave the airport and go out into that community. Maybe you get to the airport and we want to make you excited about coming out into our community. So from my perspective, I actually would go to the other side and say, I want to see things that are modern and fresh and representative of the present community, which I think that means, you know, representing all. But I don't want us to get too focused on making sure that we include historical elements, which are definitely interesting to a lot of people. But, you know, airports, I feel like, should be forward thinking and a little bit more futuristic and representative of the community that you're about to step out into. So I don't really, you know, I don't disagree. I just want to say that I'm looking for something different in an airport than a huge historical focus.
Thank you. Gabby?
Yeah, Melissa, you said that really well. I feel like that was a great segue into what I was thinking of as well. I really appreciate all the research you guys have done as like what other airports are doing, and then also in the plan under the DEI section, you know, you specifically list the populations we have based on people who have come here under refugee status and made homes and communities. And one thing that keeps coming to mind, so I keep thinking about the Vancouver, BC airport. I don't know if you've ever traveled there, it'll come to mind how spectacular it is in representing the Native peoples, and then also some of the like colonialism and shifts that have changed over time and in their art. And it's modern artists representing whether it's I'm sorry, I have holiday brain still and I'm blanking on a word, whether it's like a modern retake on something or a I can't think of the actual word, but a copy of something historical. You know, and they work with a lot of the historical museums in the area as well for that art. It's just really spectacular. And so I love that concept of as you get, you know, you've targeted the areas, and as you get further in, it would be really cool to see you targeting artists from specific communities. And when I think about refugee populations in particular, you know, instead of presenting it as like, I think what often happens is our populations get presented together as like the refugee community as one in Boise, but it'd be really cool to highlight art and artists and culture of, you know, lots of the various different communities and backgrounds that make up this really vibrant I'm sorry, the holiday brain, that's what I keep blaming it on, but vibrant communities that we have here. So
Thank you.
Could I make a couple comments in regards to this? Yes, stepping into artist as planner, working with Tilly on this plan has been one aspect of, you know, what I bring. But of course, I am a public artist first, or have been in the past. And so I think it's important to remember in all of these, you know, beautiful and amazing dialogues that we're having, by the way, it's incredible, that we can't underestimate the magic that the artist will bring. And when these opportunities actually get out there into the community, or if it's a nationwide call, and see who applies. And I think that's really important too. How do we get artists to apply that are going to bring some of these points home and then allow that magic to happen? You know, this plan is one aspect of trying to bring all these things to the forefront, but we gotta get the artists there. And then that's all I want to say. You just can't, we can't underestimate what that magic actually happens when that opportunity it becomes available to the artists. So.
Yeah, and then yep, go ahead, Gabby.
Oh, sorry. I just had another question. When it comes to large scale projects like this and you put out a call to artists, have you ever done information sessions for groups of people? And I think I see heads nodding, so I'm taking that as validation. I think, just appreciating what Lisa Sanchez shared earlier of really practicing that anti-racism, I think such a big part of that. And I know and deeply appreciate, especially this last year with the grant cycle, the great work you guys have done to connect with a lot of communities that weren't aware of these opportunities previously. But I would love to work with you guys on setting up some of those info sessions for a project such as this, so that we're making sure not just small handfuls of people from different communities are getting the information, but rather larger groups of people who might not otherwise engage with this stuff through regular mediums. Yeah, I just want to verbalize, I would love to be part of maybe organizing those when it gets closer.
Thank you, Gabby. Yeah, Stephanie does informational meetings for all of her calls. So
excellent. That's so cool.
Yeah. The one thing I wanted to note, building off of what Amy said, is this plan is just that it's a plan that's really a tool to make sure that our commission and the airport commission and our city council members are all on the same page in terms of the bigger picture of what we're trying to achieve with art at the airport. And it's really trying to set the stage of what's possible and where we'd like to go with it. But this plan is very large. We don't expect that all 36 of these projects that we identify will be implemented. We understand that what we're trying to do is set the stage and set the table, and then it's really up to Stephanie and her staff to identify and prioritize those opportunities, and then figure out who the artist is from the airport, what the airport will work with us on in terms of giving us space for cases and partnerships. That historically the airport sells all of those cases, so they have been reluctant to partner with us to do exhibitions of community groups because they see those as potential opportunities to sell them, to have them purchase that space. So all of this is actually, in some ways, this is our sales tool to say this is our vision that we'd like to see. But for any of this to come to fruition, it will take the work of Stephanie and her team, and then the partnership of the airport to bring any of it forward, and the council and the leadership that we see at our elected official level, and what they press for as well.
So in other words, the airport commission could approve the plan,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they could adopt the plan, and it's been approved, say it's been approved by A&H's commission.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't necessarily bind them into providing space for anything, really.
Correct.
Okay. It's just kind of a good faith adoption of this plan in broad outline, but the particulars are negotiated when that point comes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you.
But there has been a
The
lot
only
of
thing
footwork done in that, on that avenue, that Tilly and I have done. We've really wanted to try and get the most solid foundation under this as we can with the airport, and
So a lot
to
of
advocate for spaces that are currently being used for advertising, to try and kind of help shift that mindset. Like, this could be more valuable in the guest experience, which we want to put as a goal number one, right? So, trying to kind of get a lot of that sort of, kindling in the fire. But yeah, now it's up to the plan to move forward and hopefully, get some of these things implemented.
and it's for Stephanie to be able to refer to the plan and say, you as an airport commission or Arts and History Commission approved this. We'd like to implement this. Stephanie and her leadership feels that this A, B, and C is the most important. She'll still have to negotiate that with the airport leadership and have them agree, and then decide what they're going to move forward with.
Yeah, I just wonder about it in terms, thank you, that's so helpful for that context, because I just, but wasn't really aware of how that worked, right? Just being still somewhat new and all of that, but it makes me wonder about like when the rubber meets the road of like trying to get an exhibition, particularly a historical exhibition, right, into a particular space in the airport. What's the incentive for the airport when they know that they're potentially leaving money on the table, basically, from advertisers, right? Or local partners that are going to pay them to use that space.
And that's why we identified these goals. So what we're trying to communicate to them is that the airport is more than just a place to sell. That we're trying to focus on the guest experience, a sense of place, what the experience of the airport is. That's what we're trying to communicate to the airport leadership. And they don't disagree theoretically.
Right.
Because they go to other airports and they have that experience in other places. I think it's just hard to give up that revenue stream.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility of having, those folks sponsor an exhibit?
That's possible. Yes, that's definitely possible.
And also, trying to make the case, right, and the new construction opportunities. To specifically work with arts and history and say, okay, we want to designate this amount of wall space to new exhibition cases that are just for art or just for rotating art exhibitions or history exhibits. So trying to really advocate for that in any kind of new construction, to think about the plan and some of the opportunities that we've laid out there.
I could see, if there's an exhibit, like we have Hispanic Heritage Month or Indigenous Peoples Month, I could see somebody really wanting to have that opportunity to sponsor an exhibit like that.
We'd like to see that happen.
So has the airport commission, have they seen iterations of this plan?
They've seen, we've done a presentation about a year ago when we were just in the middle of the project, and we'll go to them in February.
So I think that I just want to voice a little bit of frustration is that this is the first time that we're seeing it. I mean, really. And
But we did do a presentation for you a year ago as well.
right, but so hear me out here. So this is the first time we're seeing this document that we're being asked to approve. Right. And it's a big thing. And so my request is that, as we do other projects, as we do other things, it would be helpful to have updates delivered more regularly, more frequently, so that we're not trying to digest the whale at the end, and then being asked to we should have had this dialogue and then voted at a different meeting, because it's a lot. And so that's my I just want to voice that's a frustration I have, because we've been asking for content for our commission meetings, and it's been frequently thin, and this is something, it's dialogue that we should have had before. So,
and if the commission is not ready to vote today, we can certainly table this item and take a vote next.
What would be our request if we did decide to hold off? Like, what would we need between now and our next meeting to feel more comfortable voting?
for me, just being able to just review it at a deeper level, but and I'm not saying that so for me, that's the thing. It's like, we're having this dialogue, and it's great dialogue, and it's rich dialogue. I appreciate it. But, we have an action item to consider, and thank you, Tyler, for your comment. So those are my frustrations, not anyone else's.
Oh, I'm fine with that, John. I think if the recommendation is we all take the next month to get a copy of the document and kind of review it more thoroughly. I've been looking at it. But like line by line, if that makes us more comfortable, and then we can vote on it next time, I think that's reasonable. Unless, Tilly, that totally screws with your schedule.
No, it shouldn't. We're going to the commission in February. I don't have an exact date yet, so it should line up since we're at the beginning of the month.
We actually meet on the first Wednesday of each month at 8 a.m.
Okay,
airport
so
commission.
it'll be the same day.
The same day,
Mhm.
unless our commission meeting cadence changes. It would be the same day.
We do have, and I apologize for not getting that to you earlier. We just got the proofs back from the designer. In fact, I have another proof that we got back from her yesterday that's a little bit more up to date. So what I'd like to do, if you're going to hold on to this to review for the next month, is to send you the proof I got from her yesterday to review. And that would work just fine. Yeah, I realize it's a meaty document. We have been working on this for 2 years, and there's a lot of meat in that plan. There is. So I'm delighted that you're interested in spending more time with it.
Feedback from other commissioners? If we had more time to digest, and then take a vote on February 1st at our next meeting.
And I would love to see the updated version.
Yep.
Yeah, I appreciate having a little more time to be able to have some more thoughtfulness and feedback. But I do also want to applaud you guys. The detail is incredible and the research is incredible. And I'm looking forward to spending more time with it as well. So.
Yeah, it's an awesome document. Okay.
I was just gonna say, if that's the decision, no formal action is needed. Just decide that it's tabled for this point, and we'll take the vote at the next time. We'll get it on the agenda. And if there's no further discussion, we're ready to move on.
Any further discussion from anybody? All right. we can talk.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I would, just so there was no surprises, because it has been kind of a heated issue in the past. In the plan, there is a recommendation for a deaccession. And it's mentioned in there, just to contextualize it just a little bit. Amy Westover is the artist and she is on board. And so it comes with kind of informed attention.
What are you saying? We've never had a problem with this.
And so, as I understand, approving the plan is not approving the session. That would be a subsequent issue in terms of discussing what the next steps and methods of disposal would be.
That's helpful. Thank you. That's a reminder for me too, like the opportunity to help engage with when we call to artists to create the new art or the new whatever we want to do for the library. I have Christmas brain too. The airport will come at a later time. So this is just the first opportunity to engage with this really in my mind.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, so we'll go ahead and then table that. I want to be cognizant of time. Jennifer?
Yes, and I will be brief. I realize I don't think the online audience can see me very well, but
we can now.
Okay. All right. This is for information only. So my name is Jennifer Weber. I'm responsible for outreach and education, and I'm here to present a very high level overview of our communications plan as it relates to arts and histories priorities for 2023. So through communications and community engagement, we strive to provide access to our programs and services, support cultural workers through publicly funded opportunities, and reflect our community's experiences, past and present, through our city's story and built environment. As always, this work is framed by the city's commitment to fostering and valuing diversity, equity, and inclusion, and our mayor's vision of creating a city for everyone. I'd also like to frame this work or this presentation by saying that we literally wouldn't be able to do any of this without our leadership support. And my thanks to Councilmember Sanchez support as our liaison, our esteemed commissioners, my counterparts in the Office of Community Engagement and across the organization, my colleague Mackenzie Dunstan, who's not here, but supports these efforts in a great deal, and our director and our team with whom I have the great privilege of working. So before I go into 2023, I wanted to take a quick look back at 2022. We did an overview at our December meeting, but I just wanted to look at 2022 through the lens of communications and community engagement, if you will allow me that. So this past year, our team provided coordinated, effective, and accessible communications and community engagement opportunities around several initiatives, but primarily around the opening of Boise's newest cultural site, the Irma Haven House. community engagement efforts focused on working alongside the Irma Heyman House Task Force to build awareness around Boise's newest cultural site as an identifiable cultural destination. And we did that through stakeholder meetings and a very robust series of site preview tours, which I think everyone here, with the exception of a few, participated in. And my thanks to you for doing that. From there, our communication efforts focused on developing a brand, printed materials, and a digital presence, website, social media, newsletter, along with a robust advertising and media campaign in support of the opening of the Irma Heyman House. And with these campaign tactics in hand, we built excitement and brought together City of Boise leadership, staff, Irma Heyman's family from far and near, members of the task force, and members of our community. And that totaled approximately 400 people shoulder to shoulder on opening day. So thank you for that. In addition to the opening of the Irma Heyman House, we experienced a lot of change with the retirement of the department's first director, Terry Shorsman, in January of 2022. And as a result, efforts focused on communicating change effectively and ensuring that we continue providing access to service to our community. And I will have more to say about that in a few minutes. Throughout the year, our entire staff continued to reimagine ways to reach and engage community members locally and regionally with access to resources, funding opportunities, and cultural programming. So as we look to 2023, Mackenzie, who I've alluded to, and I are excited to lead communications and community engagement in support of arts and histories initiatives and services in the following priority areas. So with change, as I mentioned, and growth comes an opportunity to take a deep look at the department's vision, mission, and values, or guiding principles, if you will, ensuring that they are still aligned with and help fulfill the city's mission. This work actually dovetails into Director Stevens' strategic planning efforts and may build the foundations for a stronger brand marketing strategy in the future. So more on that very soon, but I think this is an opportunity to really dig deep and make sure that our mission, vision, and values are aligned with the city's. With change and growth also comes the necessity to familiarize, in some cases refamiliarize, colleagues, residents, and visitors with the department's people. We've said farewell to so many in the last year and a half, and it's time for us to say hello to our new staff members. So please be on the lookout for a Say Hello campaign to introduce and sometimes reintroduce long-term and newer staff members. As stewards of 2 cultural sites now, we will also be working on developing a clear and robust marketing strategy to promote both the James Castle House and the Irma Heyman House as cultural destinations, both locally and regionally. And as always, we will continue to promote access to our growing collection of art and artifacts and archives. Did I say that? Art, archives, and artifacts. Here we go. As well as available funding opportunities to support cultural workers through calls to artists, grant funding opportunities, residencies, and cultural contracts, among others. And as you've just heard, one of the focus areas will be on the rollout of the public art master plans, focused on public works and the airport, pending, obviously, commission and leadership approvals. So that will mean working interdepartmentally with our public works and airport staff and our public art team. Activities will include educating the community about the plans and their contents, identifying, prioritizing, and publishing opportunities, and determining communication and community engagement strategies as they relate to each stage of these projects. So those are kind of the main priority areas. I have a non-exhaustive list of dates and events for 2023. I just wanted to share. Again, this is non-exhaustive. But to kick off the year, the James Castle House will open a new exhibition titled Hearth and Home, showcasing James Castle's soot drawings, part of the generous gift to the city of Boise by the James Castle Collection and Archive. The James Castle House will also welcome throughout the year 3 10-week residents and 2 short-stay residents. So look for opportunities for engagement there. The second half of the Fettuccine Forum Lecture Series resumes in February with a talk by Lisa McLean and Rachel Taylor describing the story or the history of the LGBTQ+ community from the 1970s onward and Boise and beyond. And followed by, in March, a presentation featuring Tamara Bennett Shelton on the history of herbs and roots in traditional Chinese medicine in Idaho and the American West. This year also marks Boise's 160th anniversary as a municipality. So be on the lookout for related exhibitions, walking tours, lectures, and educational materials, both in print and online, on local Boise history. This spring, we're looking to dedicate the 8th Street Tunnel mural by Addie Boswell in partnership with the Wasma Center for Human Rights, home of the Idaho and Frank Human Rights Memorial. That work is titled E Pluribus Unum, out of many one. And we are also in the process of reimagining how we engage our community locally and visitors in our public art collection through tours to cater to multiple audiences and increase visibility and access to existing collections or items in the public art collection. Looking ahead, we will be hosting the Mayor's Awards for Excellence in Arts and History in September and appointing a new cultural ambassador. Boise Contemporary Theater is in its 2nd term as the City of Boise's cultural ambassador, and their term ends at the end of this fiscal year, so September 30th, 2023. So the mayor will be appointing a new ambassador for the FY24, FY25 terms. And that same month, September, we will be hosting up to 1,000 members of the American Association for State and Local History, also known as AASLH. We will be leading a variety of tours and attending direction from the organization, participating in various panels and roundtables to showcase the city's municipal history, political history, and our community's varied stories. So as I did last year, I will share with you the details of this plan, along with a calendar of programs and activities planned for the year. Per Commissioner Amanda Ashley's request in December, I will also start sending members of the commission Outlook appointments for key events and engagement opportunities. So look for those as well. So 360, 10,000 foot level overview of 2023. I appreciate your time and I'm open to any questions or suggestions you may have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jennifer. As you know, you always, you get as high as you can possibly get in my mind, and then you just do that kind of stuff. It's like I know that I speak for everyone that, you are amazing. We appreciate you as the commission for everything you do. So I'll just start there and open it up to any other comments from.
It's my honor.
I just wanted to say the dedication of the Irma Heyman House was amazing. It was such a powerful event, and it was wonderful to have flesh and blood, to have so many family members of Miss Irma's there, and all of these things are concepts, and they're flat images, and then you meet the people, and it was just a wonderful event. And so I just wanted to thank everybody with Arts and History who did such a wonderful job of putting on that dedication.
Thanks for being there.
Any other questions? No, JJ?
I just want to add that, your hard work doesn't go unnoticed. You do so much and you do it so well and articulate, and it's really great. And so I just appreciate all that, all the staff does.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Quick question on the cultural ambassador. So you mentioned that that's a mayoral appointment. Does Arts and History, is any feedback or recommendation solicited for recommendations for the new one?
That's a great question.
Does that take place?
It's an open application. In years past, staff has made recommendations as to the next cultural ambassador for the mayor's review and consideration. Administration has also looked at the entire pool of applicants and made their decision based on the swath of applicants. So it just depends on the administration.
Thank you. Is that the
But
same
it
with
is
the
mayor
awards?
appointed.
Is that the same with the awards of excellence in the arts?
That is a selection committee process. So it's an application. A committee does come together to review and make recommendations. But it is the mayor's awards for excellence in arts and history. And so, yes, the mayor absolutely has a say to the nominees.
Yeah, so it's application and nomination.
Correct.
Right. And typically it's a great event as well, so.
And just a little bit of context with that. It is every other year, every odd year. 2021 was an exception due to COVID and wanting to promote a economic recovery through the Mayor's Awards for Excellence in Arts and History. And so that turned into the Mayor's Appreciation Day for Arts, History, and Culture with a cultural investment in that sector and performances and activation of City Hall Plaza. So a little bit of a different approach to that event, but it is a reflection of the times and the circumstances we were living.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we're at the near the end of our time. Any other comments from any of the commissioners? Okay, with that, I want to thank everyone, especially Jennifer and Tilly and Amy for all the work and super helpful. And just thank everyone, and here's to a good 2023 for the department and for the community. So thank you so much. We'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting.
Do we have a motion?
Oh, we do. Sorry. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion on adjourn.
JJ.
Seconded.
Second by Melissa. All those in favor?
Hi.
Opposed? So moved. We're adjourned.